The Galactic Council, a powerful alliance of the universe's most advanced species, had always regarded Earth with disdain. From their high-tech command centers across the galaxy, they watched as humanity struggled with war, disease, and poverty. To the Council, Earth was a small, insignificant speck in the vast universe, a planet that posed no real threat. They mocked humans for their primitive technology and their belief in something called humanity's will. It was laughable. How could a race of such weak and divided beings stand against the mighty forces of the Council? But all that was about to change. In a grand, pristine council chamber located on a massive space station, the leaders of the Galactic Council convened for their routine meeting. They were discussing the future of the galaxy, how to expand their influence, and how to deal with any insignificant threats. One leader, an Aldarian, whose race had once been considered the pinnacle of technological achievement, was the first to speak. "Earth is nothing," the Aldarian said with a sneer, "just a dusty rock. Their weapons are nothing more than toys. We've watched them for centuries, and they pose no risk. There's nothing to fear." The others nodded, their arrogance thick in the air. To them, humanity was nothing but a joke, their occasional outbursts of defiance easily crushed by the superior power of the Council. But then, as if to challenge their certainty, a strange signal cut through the atmosphere, a sharp, sudden spike in energy readings that the Council could not ignore. It was unlike anything they had ever encountered before. The Galactic Council's chief scientist, a Nevarian, quickly analyzed the data, but all he could offer was confusion. "An anomaly," he muttered, staring at the screen. "Some sort of massive energy signature coming from Earth's southern hemisphere. Must be some sort of malfunction," one of the leaders said dismissively, waving his hand. "There's no way that primitive species could produce something like this." But the readings kept coming. Strange, erratic bursts of energy that no one could fully explain. The Nevarian tapped nervously at his console, still unable to identify the source. It's too large to be any known energy signature," he stammered, his voice tinged with uncertainty. "We should investigate, just in case." "Investigate?" The Aldarian chuckled. "There is nothing to investigate. It's nothing." Yet, despite the leader's dismissive tone, a small, uneasy feeling settled into the room. The very idea that Earth could be involved in something so unprecedented was hard to believe. But there it was, a signal that could not be ignored. Back on Earth, hidden deep within a classified underground military base, something extraordinary was taking place. In a large cold hangar, engineers and scientists worked tirelessly, their faces grim with determination. This base, nestled far beneath the surface of a secluded mountain range, was one of humanity's most guarded secrets. The project they were working on was known only to a select few. Even the highest ranks of government were unaware of its true scope. The purpose: to create a weapon capable of defending humanity against any threat. And that weapon was now complete. The engineers had been working around the clock for years, perfecting every detail. They had constructed the largest warship the galaxy had ever seen, one capable of withstanding attacks from even the most advanced alien fleets. This ship was known as the Titan, and it was humanity's last, best hope. Inside the base, a man stood before a massive screen, his eyes focused on the image of the nearly finished Dreadnought. Captain Bonner, a seasoned military leader, had been overseeing the construction. His face was lined with the stress of years spent building the Titan, knowing that time was running out. "We're ready," one of the chief engineers said, wiping sweat from his brow. "The ship is operational, sir, but we still need to calibrate the weapon systems." Bonner nodded grimly, aware that every moment spent waiting could cost them everything. Outside, the Galactic Council's ships were already on their way, drawn to the strange energy signature they had detected earlier. They had begun to realize that perhaps Earth wasn't as weak as they had assumed. But it was too late. The Titan was ready. The engineers had done their part, but now it was time for Bonner to make the final call. He turned to his crew, his voice firm, but full of resolve. "Activate the cloaking device," he ordered. "It's time to show them what humanity is capable of." As the Titan emerged from Earth's atmosphere, the galaxy's most advanced fleets, ships designed by species far superior to anything humanity had ever dreamed, watched in disbelief. The Titan's massive form broke free of the planet's gravitational pull and silently ascended into space, cloaked and invisible to all but the most sensitive scanners. It was enormous, unlike anything the Council had ever seen. It was a dreadnought built for war, bristling with weapons that could destroy entire fleets in an instant. On the Galactic Council's flagship, a large holographic projection showed the trajectory of the Titan as it cut through space. Panic began to spread throughout the Council's ranks. This cannot be possible," an Aldarian leader stammered, his eyes wide in disbelief. "The humans have done the impossible." Aboard the Titan, Captain Bonner stood in the command center, his eyes fixed on the galaxy spread out before him. His hands were steady, but the weight of responsibility bore down on him. He knew this would be humanity's defining moment. The Council had underestimated them, mocked them, but now it was time to show them just how dangerous humanity could be. The crew moved swiftly, preparing for the mission ahead. Bonner's voice echoed through the command center, firm and commanding. "Prepare the weapons systems. The Titan is going to make sure the Council never forgets the cost of underestimating Earth." The ship's weapons came to life. Massive cannons, energy beams, and missile silos bristled with power. The Titan was more than just a ship. It was a symbol of everything humanity had fought for, everything they had survived. And now, as it cruised toward the Council's fleets, the message could not be clearer. "Earth is not your playground anymore," Bonner said, his voice calm, but filled with the fury of a species tired of being dismissed. And with that, the Titan made its move, and the galaxy would never be the same again. The first signs of the Galactic Council's response came quickly, like the cold, distant thunder of an approaching storm. The moment the Titan had cloaked itself and risen from Earth's atmosphere, the Galactic Council knew something had gone terribly wrong. They had underestimated humanity for too long, dismissing them as a minor threat, a backwater planet with no real power. But now, their arrogance was about to cost them. The Aldarian Emperor, a powerful leader who had once considered Earth little more than a speck in the vast expanse of the galaxy, sat motionless in his throne room. His advisors whispered among themselves, trying to make sense of what had happened. The sudden appearance of the Titan, a ship that no one had even known existed, was more than just an anomaly. It was a direct challenge to everything the Council had believed about humanity. "This is impossible," the Aldarian Emperor growled. "There is no way Earth could have built such a weapon. It must be a mistake." But the signal was real. The energy readings were impossible to ignore. And the Titan was out there, somewhere in the dark depths of space, preparing for battle. Without a moment's hesitation, the Emperor made his decision. The time had come to crush humanity's newfound power before it could pose a real threat. He turned to his fleet commanders, his voice cold and commanding. "Dispatch the largest fleet we have," the Emperor ordered. "We will eliminate this Titan and remind Earth of its place. Prepare for battle. Leave no survivors." The Council had long viewed themselves as the rulers of the galaxy. They had never considered the possibility that a primitive species like humanity could rise to challenge them. But now they had no choice but to face the terrifying reality that Earth had created something that could bring their empire to its knees. A massive fleet was assembled, one that dwarfed anything humanity had ever seen. Hundreds of massive warships, each bristling with advanced weapons and AI systems, made their way toward Earth. The Aldarian Emperor's flagship led the charge, its sleek, angular design cutting through space like a predator on the hunt. The humans had awakened something far more dangerous than they realized. Meanwhile, aboard the Titan, Captain Bonner stood in the command center, his hands gripping the armrests of his chair. His mind raced as he looked at the galaxy spread out before him on the large screens. The fleet was coming, and they were about to find out just how much the Titan had been built to withstand. Bonner knew the stakes were high. If they failed, Earth would be annihilated. But he also knew that if they succeeded, they would send a message to the entire galaxy. Humanity would no longer be a doormat for anyone to step on. "Activate cloaking," Bonner ordered, his voice steady but firm. The crew moved swiftly, their years of training and preparation kicking in. The Titan disappeared into the dark void of space, invisible to the approaching Aldarian fleet. The ship's cloaking device rendered it completely undetectable, a shadow in the vastness of space. For a moment, there was nothing but silence, a strange calm before the storm. Then, without warning, the first shot was fired. A brilliant flash of light erupted from the Titan's hidden position, a massive laser barrage that lit up the sky. The Aldarian fleet had no time to react. In the blink of an eye, a dozen of their ships were obliterated, torn apart by the sheer force of the Titan's weapons. The remaining ships scattered in confusion, their sensors struggling to locate the source of the attack. The human crew cheered as the first volley hit home, but Captain Bonner knew better than to get too comfortable. The battle had just begun, and the true test of humanity's resolve was about to unfold. Inside the command center, the crew worked frantically to maintain their advantage. Engineers monitored the ship's systems, keeping the power flowing to the weapons while soldiers prepared for the inevitable counterattack. Bonner moved among them, offering words of encouragement, but his mind was always focused on the battle ahead. "This is it," he muttered to himself. "We're not just fighting for Earth, we're fighting for everything we've ever stood for." Despite the early success, the Aldarian fleet was not about to give up without a fight. They quickly regrouped, deploying advanced eye-controlled drones to search for the Titan's location. The drones were fast, nearly impossible to catch, and far more advanced than any technology humanity had ever encountered. Aboard the Titan, the crew struggled to keep up with the overwhelming onslaught of enemy ships. The fleet had closed in, and the Titan was being forced to fight at full capacity. Bonner's face tightened with determination as the battle raged on. But just as the tide seemed to be turning in humanity's favor, disaster struck. A surprise ambush by a group of Aldarian warships caught the Titan off guard. Several ships appeared out of nowhere, flanking the Titan and firing at close range. The ship's shields flickered, weakening under the intensity of the fire. The Titan began to shudder as explosions rocked its hull. "Shields failing," one of the engineers shouted. Captain Bonner's heart skipped a beat as he watched the damage reports flood in. The Titan was taking heavy fire, and the crew was struggling to maintain control. "Pull us out of their range," Bonner ordered. "Increase speed." But as the Titan tried to maneuver, Bonner's eyes locked onto the screen showing the battle unfolding. One of his closest friends, Lieutenant Harper, was stationed near the rear of the ship, overseeing the defensive systems. Harper had been with Bonner since the beginning of the Titan project, and the two had shared countless battles together. He was more than just a colleague, he was family. Harper had spotted a critical weakness in the Titan's defenses, a gap that the Aldarians had exploited. As a heavy volley of fire tore into the ship, Harper made a split-second decision. "No, get out of there," Bonner shouted through the comms, but it was too late. In an act of heroism, Lieutenant Harper dove into the path of an incoming missile barrage, using himself as a human shield to protect the ship's most vital systems. The explosion was deafening, and Bonner watched in horror as the screen flickered and went dark. The Titan's defenses held, but the cost was steep. Harper was gone. Silence filled the command center as the crew processed what had just happened. The emotional weight of the loss hit everyone like a wave. Harper had given his life to save them all, and now it was up to the rest of the crew to honor his sacrifice. "Keep fighting," Bonner shouted, his voice breaking with emotion. "We fight for Harper. We fight for Earth." The crew rallied around him, their resolve strengthened by the loss of their friend. They knew that this battle wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about proving to the galaxy that humanity could stand toe-to-toe with the most powerful forces in the universe. As the Titan engaged the remaining Eldarian ships, the crew pushed forward, their hearts heavy but determined. They had lost a brother, but they would not let his sacrifice be in vain. The battle raged on, the Titan firing wave after wave of devastating firepower, taking down the Eldarian fleet piece by piece. The tide was turning, but the war was far from over. The Titan had proven its power, but humanity had yet to prove that they could win the war. The battle had raged for hours, and the Titan was holding its ground against the might of the Galactic Council. The humans aboard the ship, though vastly outnumbered, were relentless. Their resolve was unwavering, despite the onslaught they were facing. On the command deck, Captain Bonner stood firm, watching the battle unfold before him. The Council's fury was palpable. Their vast fleets, which had once been the undisputed rulers of the galaxy, were now scrambling to regain their lost ground. The Titan had already crippled a dozen ships, and the Eldarian Emperor knew that if they didn't act quickly, they would be facing total defeat. His command was swift. More reinforcements were sent to Earth at full speed, their engines burning bright in the dark expanse of space. "Send everything we have. We cannot let this ship stand," the Emperor ordered, his voice thick with rage. His advisors nodded in agreement, already transmitting the orders. Wave after wave of Eldarian warships, drones, and automated fighters streamed toward Earth. The sheer number of ships was overwhelming, and the humans aboard the Titan knew that they were outnumbered. But despite the overwhelming odds, the humans were not backing down. Inside the Titan, its powerful AI systems began to spring to life, running calculations at light speed. The ship's advanced technology had been designed for this moment. It had cloaking abilities, powerful shields, and weapons that could destroy entire fleets. But more importantly, it had advanced AI and robotic drones capable of turning the tide of any battle. "Deploy all drones," Captain Bonner ordered. The AI-controlled drones, equipped with advanced weapons and combat protocols, launched into space with precision. They swarmed around the Titan, targeting the incoming enemy ships. The drones were fast, deadly, and relentless, taking down ship after ship with ease. However, the enemy wasn't going to make it easy. The Eldarian fleet had sent their most advanced warships, each one armed with powerful energy weapons and shields. As the Titan engaged in battle with the enemy forces, the humans on board knew they couldn't rely solely on their drones. They had to fight at close quarters too. The Titan's command deck shook as the ship was rocked by enemy fire. Bonner braced himself against the tremors, watching as his crew sprang into action. The battle had reached its climax. The enemy was closing in, and the Titan's defenses were being tested to their limits. In the heart of the ship, human soldiers and robotic drones fought side by side. The sound of clashing metal filled the air as humans armed with energy weapons and drones engaged in close-quarters combat on the ship's decks. In the narrow hallways, the battle was fierce. Robots with advanced combat capabilities fought alongside soldiers who were fearless in the face of overwhelming odds. One such soldier, Lieutenant Jenna, was in the thick of the fighting. Armed with a plasma rifle, she moved quickly through the ship's narrow corridors, ducking behind cover as blasts rang out from the enemy. The robotic drones fought alongside her, their advanced weaponry decimating the enemy forces. She moved with purpose, taking out enemy drones with calculated precision. "Stay focused," Jenna shouted to the team over the comms. "We can't let them breach the hull. We need to hold them off at all costs." But the Eldarians were not giving up. Despite their fleet being decimated, they fought with relentless tenacity. They knew that this battle was their last chance to put an end to the human threat. Meanwhile, on the Titan's bridge, Bonner was analyzing the situation. His ship had taken considerable damage, but it was still operational. The AI was performing miracles, but Bonner knew they were running out of time. The Eldarians were relentless, and they would not stop until Earth had been destroyed. It was then that Bonner made a bold decision. "We're going after their flagship," he said, his voice filled with determination. The crew looked at him, stunned for a moment, before they rallied behind his command. The Titan was more than just a ship. It was a symbol of humanity's defiance. Bonner's plan was risky. The Aldarian flagship, the heart of their fleet, was heavily shielded and bristling with weapons. But if they could take it down, they could break the will of the entire fleet. With a roar of its engines, the Titan charged toward the enemy flagship, cloaking itself to avoid detection. As the Titan moved into position, the crew prepared for the final assault. Bonner's fingers flew across the control panel, giving the final command. EMP strike. Now. The Titan's AI systems synchronized, launching a powerful electromagnetic pulse that swept across the battlefield. The pulse hit the Aldarian flagship, disabling its systems in an instant. The once mighty warship, now crippled, drifted helplessly in space, its weapons and shields powerless. The Aldarian fleet, already in disarray, watched in horror as their flagship was taken out. The Emperor, who had watched the battle from his command chair, was left speechless. The Titan had done the impossible. "Retreat," the Emperor screamed, realizing that their forces were no match for the humans. "All ships, retreat immediately." But the humans weren't done yet. With the Aldarian flagship out of commission, Bonner ordered a bold move. "Board the flagship," he said. "It's ours now." The human soldiers, along with a squad of robotic drones, boarded the enemy flagship with military precision. They fought their way through the ship, encountering pockets of resistance from the remaining Aldarian forces. But despite their desperation, the Aldarians were no match for the humans. As the last of the enemy soldiers were subdued, the humans took control of the flagship. The Galactic Council, who had once mocked humanity, now realized the magnitude of their mistake. The humans had proven themselves far more capable than anyone could have imagined. Captain Bonner stood on the bridge of the Aldarian flagship, staring out at the stars. Earth had been saved, but the battle was far from over. The Titan had won the day, but the war for humanity's place in the galaxy was just beginning. The news of the Titan's victory spread like wildfire across the galaxy. The Galactic Council, once confident in their superiority, now understood that they had severely underestimated humanity. The humans were no longer the weak species they had once thought them to be. The tide had turned, and the galaxy would never be the same again. The Titan's victory had sent a message to the galaxy. Humanity was not to be trifled with. And as Bonner looked out at the stars, he knew that the humans had only just begun to show the universe what they were capable of. The war had escalated quickly, and as Captain Bonner stood on the command deck of the Titan, the weight of the situation pressed down on him. Humanity had won a few battles, but the war was far from over. The Galactic Council had sent their final offensive to Earth, and this time, they weren't going to stop until they obliterated the human race. Bonner had seen the intelligence reports. The enemy fleet was massive, and they had targeted Earth's most vulnerable points. Inside the Titan, Bonner paced restlessly. His mind raced through the countless plans and strategies, but each one seemed to lead to a dead end. The situation had become dire. He knew that if they didn't act soon, the war would be lost. The Galactic Council wasn't going to give them mercy. They would burn Earth to the ground, leaving nothing behind. "Captain," came the voice of Lieutenant Harper, his most trusted officer. "We've intercepted their fleet's movements. It's only a matter of time before they launch the final strike." Bonner looked at the map on the command screen, showing the massive alien fleet heading towards Earth. It would only be a few hours before they reached their destination, and once they did, nothing would be able to stop them. The Titan had been humanity's weapon, but even it wasn't enough to stand against such overwhelming force. "We can't wait for them to strike first," Bonner muttered under his breath. "We have to go after the source, the Council's AI control center. If we can destroy that, we may have a chance." It was a desperate plan, one that would require the Titan to infiltrate the heart of the Galactic Council's strongest fortress. The command center was heavily guarded, and no one had ever dared to attack it. But Bonner didn't have a choice. The lives of every person on Earth depended on this mission succeeding. "Harper," Bonner said, his voice steady, "I need you to lead the mission to sabotage the control center. I'll stay with the ship and coordinate everything from here. Make sure you and your team are ready for anything." Harper, though clearly uneasy about Bonner's decision to stay behind, nodded. "We'll do whatever it takes, sir." The crew of the Titan prepared for the final mission. The tension was palpable. The war had already cost them so much, and this mission would push them to the edge. Bonner could see the exhaustion on their faces, but there was also a glimmer of determination. They had come this far, and now they were going to fight until the very end. As the Titan approached the Council's fortress, the air was thick with uncertainty. The ship's advanced technology cloaked it from the enemy sensors, but Bonner knew that wouldn't last long. They had to strike quickly. "All hands, brace for impact," Bonner ordered. The ship lurched as it entered the fortress's atmosphere, and the crew tightened their grips on whatever they could hold on to. The Titan was about to make history, for better or for worse. "Harper's team is on the ground," Bonner said to himself, his thoughts focused on his crew. They had to get inside the heart of the fortress, destroy the AI, and escape before the enemy could retaliate. Time was their biggest enemy. As Bonner watched the display, tracking Harper's team, he saw their progress slow down as they fought their way through waves of alien soldiers. The Titan was offering fire support, but the mission was a perilous one. Bonner's heart ached as he watched the soldiers sacrifice themselves one by one, each member of the team laying down their lives for the cause. It was then that Bonner felt something he hadn't expected, a sharp pain in his side. He glanced down, realizing that he had been wounded. His breath quickened as blood stained his uniform. The mission was taking its toll on him, but he couldn't afford to stop. There was too much at stake. "Bonner," came the voice of his eye, urgent and concerned. "You're bleeding. You need medical attention immediately." "I don't have time for that," Bonner muttered, his voice growing weaker. "Keep the ship on course. I'll be fine." His mind was becoming foggy, but he couldn't let his team fail. The fate of Earth was on his shoulders. As Bonner gave the final coordinates to launch the Titan's most powerful weapon, his thoughts drifted back to the crew, his family. These were the men and women who had believed in him, who had trusted him to lead them into battle. They had all made sacrifices, but now it was his turn. With a grim determination, Bonner pressed the button to send the final coordinates to the Titan. The ship's massive weapon systems came online, preparing to unleash a strike that would change the fate of the galaxy. Just then, Harper's voice came through the comms. "Captain, we've reached the control center. We're about to destroy the AI." Bonner could hear the strain in her voice, but there was something else there. Hope. Hope that this would be the end of the war. Hope that humanity could survive. And in that moment, Bonner knew that no matter what happened, they had done everything they could. "Good work, Harper," Bonner said softly. "Just make sure you get out alive." A loud explosion echoed through the comms as Harper's team successfully destroyed the AI. The fortress shook, and Bonner could feel the Titan begin to move into position. The weapon was charging, and everything was falling into place. But Bonner's strength was fading. He was no longer able to stand. His body was giving out, but his heart was still fighting. The world around him blurred as he slumped into his chair, his hands trembling as he issued the final command to launch the weapon. The Titan unleashed its full force, and the Council's control center erupted in a brilliant explosion. But for Captain Bonner, the war was over. He had given everything, and now, with the mission complete, he could finally rest. As Bonner's life slipped away, he shared his final moments with his crew. The faces of the men and women who had fought by his side were etched into his mind. He knew they would carry on. He had no doubt that humanity's future would be bright, no matter the cost. Harper, through tears, spoke over the comms. "We're not letting you down, Captain. We'll finish what you started." Bonner's final breath escaped him, But his words echoed in the minds of his crew. They would make sure no one ever looked down on Earth again. As the Titan sailed through space, leaving the shattered remains of the Galactic Council behind, humanity had finally proven itself. The victory came at a tremendous cost, but it had secured their place in the galaxy. The legacy of Captain Bonner would live on, inspiring generations to come. The price of war had been high, but humanity had emerged stronger than ever. And as Earth looked to the stars, they knew that they were no longer the underdogs. They had become the masters of their own destiny. After Captain Bonner's death, the atmosphere aboard the Titan was heavy with grief, but also with resolve. His sacrifice had ignited a fire within the remaining crew, a fire that burned brighter than ever before. They knew that this final battle, the one that had seemed inevitable for so long, was now upon them. Bonner's legacy wasn't just about leadership, it was about the survival of humanity. The crew of the Titan would fight for him, for Earth, and for all the lives that depended on them. Inside the command center, Lieutenant Harper stood at the front, her face a mask of determination. Bonner's final words still echoed in her ears, a rallying cry to finish what they had started. It wasn't just a mission now, it was personal. She and her crew were going to avenge Bonner, and they would see to it that no one would ever look down on humanity again. "Prepare for the final assault," Harper ordered, her voice steady and commanding despite the emotional weight of the task ahead. The remaining members of the crew moved with purpose. They knew the time had come to end this war, and it was now or never. The Titan was no longer just a warship. It had become a symbol of humanity's strength and resolve. Every human aboard, every soldier, engineer, and officer knew that their mission would determine the future of the galaxy. The Galactic Council's reign of terror, driven by their oppressive AI control, would end here. The stakes couldn't have been higher, but the humans aboard the Titan were ready. Harper stared at the screen showing the coordinates of the Galactic Council's capital planet. It was heavily defended, but nothing could stop them now. The Titan's weapon systems had been charged, and its advanced AI was fully integrated into the battle plan. They would go in full force. No retreat, no surrender. With a command from Harper, the Titan surged forward, its massive engines propelling it towards the Council's stronghold. The enemy fleet stood in their way, but they were no match for the Titan's advanced cloaking technology and powerful weapons. As the ship cloaked itself, it became nearly invisible to the enemy sensors, allowing it to strike first and strike hard. The first wave of enemy ships was obliterated before they could even fire back. A massive barrage of lasers and missiles rained down from the Titan, vaporizing everything in its path. The humans weren't holding back. This was the final fight, and they had no intention of losing. "Target the planetary defenses," Harper ordered as the Titan prepared its next move. The massive warship loomed above the enemy's capital planet, its weapons now locked onto the planetary surface. "Commence orbital bombardment." The Titan unleashed its full fury, its powerful guns targeting the planet's defenses and military structures. The ground below erupted into flames as explosions rocked the surface. The sight was both beautiful and terrifying. The Council's capital planet, once a symbol of their immense power, was now being torn apart by the very humans they had sought to destroy. On the planet's surface, human soldiers fought their way through heavily fortified enemy positions. The ground was littered with the wreckage of alien war machines and the remains of countless Council soldiers. Despite the overwhelming odds, the humans fought with a ferocity that could only come from knowing their lives. And the fate of Earth depended on their success. The battle was fierce, but the humans had the upper hand. The Council's forces, once the most powerful military in the galaxy, were now crumbling before the might of human ingenuity and determination. Every shot fired, every move made, brought them one step closer to victory. But the battle was far from over. As the Titan continued its bombardment, Harper watched the destruction unfold on the screen. "We're making progress," she said, but there was no time to celebrate. The final objective was in sight: the destruction of the Council's central AI control center. If they could destroy it, they could cripple the entire Council's operations. Harper gathered her team for the final push. They had fought their way through the capital, but now they were headed straight for the heart of the Council's power. The AI Control Center was located deep underground, hidden behind layers of security and defense systems. But Harper had something the Council couldn't anticipate: the human spirit. The journey to the control center was perilous. Enemy forces were everywhere, and every hallway seemed to be filled with traps designed to stop them. But Harper and her team fought their way through, their determination unwavering. They had come too far to turn back now. The final battle for the AI Control Center was brutal. Human soldiers clashed with robotic drones and alien guards, each battle a fight for their very survival. But there was no stopping them. With every battle won, they moved closer to their goal. Harper, leading the charge, felt the weight of Bonner's death urging her forward. This was for him, for Earth, for every person who had ever been underestimated. When they finally reached the AI core, it was heavily guarded. The hum of the advanced machinery filled the air, and the tension was unbearable. The AI was the heart of the Galactic Council's power, and destroying it would mean the end of their reign. But the humans were determined. They planted explosive charges around the core, their hearts pounding in their chests. As they retreated to a safe distance, Harper gave the command to detonate. The explosion was deafening. The AI core shattered, its circuits sparking and short-circuiting. The hum of the machine died away, and for the first time in centuries, the galaxy was free from the grip of AI supremacy. Back aboard the Titan, Harper watched as the remaining enemy forces began to retreat. The Galactic Council's once formidable fleet was now in disarray, its power shattered by the loss of its central AI. The humans had done it. They had destroyed the heart of the Council's strength, and now they were free to finish the war. The final wave of attacks came swiftly, as the humans launched their final offensive against the remaining Council forces. The Titan led the charge, its weapons tearing through the enemy ships. The battle was fierce, but the outcome was never in doubt. The humans had proven that their strength was not just in their technology, but in their unbreakable will to survive. The battle for the galaxy had come to an end. The Galactic Council, once the dominant force in the universe, had fallen. The humans had proven themselves as warriors, as survivors, and as leaders of the galaxy. As the Titan hovered above the ruins of the Council's capital, Harper looked out at the stars. The war was over, but the journey had only just begun. Humanity had earned its place among the stars. The battle was over, but the story of humanity's triumph would live on for generations to come. And for the first time in history, the galaxy would see Earth not as a weak, insignificant planet, but as a force to be reckoned with. The humans had won, and the evil grip of the Galactic Council was no more. The dust had barely settled over the wreckage of the Galactic Council's once mighty empire when a new chapter in the galaxy's history began to unfold. The Titan had brought humanity to the forefront of galactic affairs, but it was more than just the victory itself that marked the turning point. It was what came after. The defeat of the Council wasn't just a battle won. It was the end of an era of oppression and the birth of a new order, one where humanity would lead, not follow. Human representatives, once considered insignificant in the grand scheme of the galaxy, now stood as respected leaders. Their victory over the Council had made it clear that Earth was not a planet to be underestimated. Alien species who had once sneered at humanity, dismissing them as primitive and weak, now bowed to them, recognizing the strength and determination that had turned the tide of war. Humans were no longer the underdogs of the galaxy. They were its new rulers. The old power structures that had governed the galaxy for millennia had crumbled. The Galactic Council, an empire built on the shoulders of AI control and oppression, was no more. In its place, a new alliance was born, with humanity at the helm. The first few months following the fall of the Council were filled with intense diplomacy, negotiations and treaties as humanity worked to establish its place as the new power in the galaxy. But despite the challenges that lay ahead, the path forward was clear. Humanity was ready to lead, ready to shape the future of the galaxy. On Earth, the mood was one of mixed emotions, grief and celebration, loss and hope. The victory over the Galactic Council had come at a great cost. So many lives had been lost in the war, so many sacrifices made. It was impossible to forget those who had fought and died, especially Captain Bonner. His name had become synonymous with bravery, sacrifice, and the unwavering human spirit. His death had ignited the fire that had driven the Titan and its crew to victory, and now his legacy was etched into the very fabric of humanity's new future. To honor him, and all those who had given their lives in the fight, Earth held a massive ceremony. It was a somber occasion, but one filled with pride. People from all walks of life, from every corner of the globe, gathered together to pay their respects. The ceremony was broadcast across the galaxy, a symbol of humanity's unity and resilience. As the memorial service began, the leaders of Earth took the stage. They spoke of the sacrifices made, the courage shown, and the debt humanity owed to those who had fought for their freedom. In the crowd, many were in tears, remembering loved ones lost and heroes fallen. The faces of soldiers and civilians alike were etched with grief, but there was a sense of something deeper, a shared understanding that Bonner's sacrifice had not been in vain. His actions had changed the course of history. The world stood still for a moment as Bonner's name was called. His face was projected onto massive screens across Earth's cities, his strong, determined expression forever captured in the memories of the people. His sacrifice had not only secured humanity's place in the galaxy, it had ensured that no one would ever look down on Earth again. The heroes of the war were now legends, and their stories would be told for generations to come. But even as humanity paused to reflect on the victories and losses of the war, the future was never far from their minds. The victory over the Galactic Council was monumental, but it was only the beginning. The galaxy was vast, and there were other powers, other threats, lurking just beyond the horizon. As Earth celebrated its newfound position in the galaxy, a dark shadow was beginning to take shape. Unbeknownst to most, an alien fleet, far more advanced than anything humanity had encountered before, watched from the edges of known space. These new foes were silent observers for now, but their presence was undeniable. They knew of humanity's rise to power, and their eyes were fixed firmly on Earth, watching, waiting. The humans had made their mark on the galaxy, but their peace would not last forever. The fall of the Galactic Council had sent ripples through the galaxy, and other empires took note. Some saw humanity as a threat, while others viewed them as potential allies or adversaries. But one thing was certain: the balance of power had shifted, and Earth had taken its place at the center of that shift. The alien fleet, more advanced and more powerful than anything the humans had faced, was a reminder that the galaxy was still a dangerous place. The peace that humanity had fought for was fragile, and new battles were already on the horizon. As Earth basked in the glow of its hard-won victory, they knew that the fight for survival was far from over. Humanity had proven its strength, its resolve, and its ability to overcome seemingly insurmountable odds. But the future was uncertain, and the galaxy was full of unknown dangers. As the ceremony came to an end, a sense of unease lingered in the air. The war with the Galactic Council might have been won, but it was clear that humanity's true test was only just beginning. But for now, the humans stood tall. They had earned their place in the galaxy, and they were not going to give it up easily. The galaxy had underestimated them once, but no longer. The legacy of Captain Bonner and all those who fought with him would be remembered, not just as a moment in history, but as a promise to the galaxy that humanity was a force to be reckoned with. As the final rays of light from the memorial ceremony faded, the camera zoomed out into space, revealing the vast expanse of the galaxy. The stars twinkled in the distance, a reminder of how much was still out there, how much humanity had yet to discover. But it also served as a beacon, a symbol of hope and strength, a promise that Earth would continue to rise, continue to fight, and continue to stand as a leader in the galaxy. The future was uncertain, but humanity was ready. The galaxy was about to learn that Earth was no longer just a planet in the corner of the universe. It was now the beating heart of a new age, one where humanity would not only survive but thrive. And whatever threats lay ahead, humanity would face them with the same courage and determination that had carried them through the darkest days of the war. The story of Earth's rise had just begun, and it would be a story told for centuries to come. The galaxy was watching, and humanity was ready to show them just what it meant to be the true rulers of the stars.